Yeah, 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 yo. Gonna be later in the year with the NBA, and what is actually the most important part of the finals. We'll be talking a little bit about the Knicks head coaching search, and what that means for the league at large and what that actually entails. And lastly, we'll be talking about Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers. But first, we will be talking about the NBA finals that you should be caring about. I think a lot of times when it comes to the NBA specifically, the NBA is in an interesting place in the fact that I feel like the product has never been better, and yet we have been trained by other things to make it so that we tend to hate the league. Um, Things like just frankly the rampant rise in xenophobia that has happened in America now, where you have a sport that's clearly becoming way more international. The best 4 to 7 players in the league you can say are maybe all internationals, or there aren't only so many Americans in there. We haven't had an American win MVP since James Harden in 2018. Excuse me. And the stars who a lot of people grew up on, who if you're a millennial or even maybe a younger Gen Xer, are about to retire or getting close to that point. And Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and this has been an indication of the separation between people who like basketball and like storylines of basketball. These are very two different things. You cannot watch the way that both the Indiana Pacers are playing and the Oklahoma City Thunder player and think that this is not anything short of high leverage basketball. The worst players on both teams that get minutes, so guys that are in rotations, you can argue is maybe Obi Toppin and like Aaron Wiggins. Aaron Wiggins had a 40-point game this year. Obi Toppin was the 8th overall pick in the draft and hit 5 threes and helped them win game 1 to start. And those guys might be the worst players on the court. There were times where you just watch some of these games. Like I remember at one point, the starting center for the Miami Heat was someone named Joel Anderson, right? Like he was not a very skilled basketball player, but what did he do? He was rough, he was tumble, he gets you a bunch of rebounds. Guys like that can't play in the league anymore. And 1 through 9 or 10, however many players play the court, if you cannot dribble through contact, if you cannot shoot open shots, let alone open 3-pointers, play some level of defense and pass the ball, you can't play in the league anymore. Or at least you cannot play on teams that have real desires to win championships. The league is too skilled. But we just keep getting so stuck into these redundant talking points of is Shea, the conversation about Shea superstar to me is just pointless conversation. The man's won MVP. He was second in MVP last season. If the Thunder go on to win the series, which I think they are going to, he's going to be the Finals MVP. He might join Shaq and Michael Jordan as the only players to be Finals MVP, League MVP, and the scoring champ in NBA history. Like this doesn't need to be a conversation anymore. But we are so fixated on, well, like he doesn't really talk like that. Or, hey, he doesn't really have anything controversial. It's like, I just remember when we just liked the game for the game. And maybe it's just the fact that these guys aren't nameless, faceless people. And there has to be some level of draw to it. Is what's really going on. Because the basketball, I am telling you, is incredible. That's what's taking place right now. We're recording this on a Monday. So this is going to be a 1-1 series at the moment. I think back to Indiana. I still think the OKC will win. I think this will likely go 6. I can't see the once they got the first one, and then the fact that they didn't go up 2-0 in OKC, I could definitely see Indiana winning one more game. I still think OKC wins this in 5, if not 6 now. And this has just been a really fun series to watch. And to speak to that point, I'm actually going to do something I never thought I would do in my life when I decided to start making content. That's to defend Tyrese Halliburton. So Tyrese Halliburton has basically not been good in the first 2 games. He hit the game winner against the Thunder in game 1. But in large part, people have seen to be pretty invisible. Before his fourth quarter, which I think he had 12 points, he had 3 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 turnovers in a game that he just played in. And I think the hard part was with Halliburton, he kind of lives in this space of, while I would say he is a superstar, he's one of the 12 best players in the league, his bad games are just not going to look like traditional superstars' bad games, right? Someone like a Donovan Mitchell, right? Most of the times when you know Donovan Mitchell's having a bad game, you can see very clearly he's having a bad game. He might be still going to the rim. He might still be attacking, but he can be wildly out of control, losing the ball and having a lot of turnovers. And he'll have games where he shoots 8 for 25, 9 for 27, things like that. With Halliburton, his bad games are so much quieter that you just don't see him. And it comes across as him not being, as the coined phrase of just being aggressive enough. Because he's not the kind of guy that's ever going to take 25 to 30 shots in a game. He might do it if he has it going, right? If his step back three is going, he's doing all that jarring that he loves to do from his front running position. He's a guy who is going to always do the right basketball play every single time. Every single time. That is just the way that he is wired. And that's why I feel like his bad games are a lot less quiet versus maybe someone like a Russ is a great example. When we know when Russ was in his prime, he's having a bad game because you can tell from the start. He is just going. He's not going to stop. I actually think it's it's not a terrible thing for him, right? Because while there is something to the idea of you need to be aggressive, meaning you have to be the one to collapse the defense to get into the paint and spray it out to the shooters to keep the ball moving, I'm much rather that than just a guy going hell bent. I'm getting to the rim and I'm shooting every single time, right? I think there can be a little bit of a conversation about how exactly this guy goes about his business and what his essential bad games. This isn't a defense of him having bad games. He was bad in both games. But this is more a defense of how it looks, per se. And just everything, he'll be a guy who's going to be out there shooting the ball more and more and more, even if he doesn't have it in rhythm. So we'll see how the rest of this series goes. It's just back to Indiana. The biggest thing that the NBA just has to stop doing is they're like a 15-year-old that can't put down the Twitter phone. Every single thing you tweet, I wonder if Adam Silver literally live hears it. It's like, oh no, we got to do this. People were talking about the trophy not being on the court. Mind you, they haven't had the trophy on the court for a few years now. Like, this wasn't there last year. I can't remember the last time they had it on the court. But there's probably the reason why, and probably the reason why is money, because there's probably things that the logo's too big and it'll take up ad space on the court. What have you. But then they put these digital mini trophies on the court, which I'm like, what are we doing, man? Just get sometimes you just got to do something cool just to get fans to like the game some more, man. And as we just talked about the whole superstar conversation and things like that, just put the logo on the court. Okay, they're already getting tons of pay.com arena. Trust me, it's stuck in my head now. I've seen 15 other ads and their things are on the court, right? You're doing your job. But the trying workarounds for these things is just embarrassing, right? There's a level of nostalgia that I think should just stay and just keep it. It makes it feel like it's the games. And trust me, the NBA did this when they started the whole in-season tournament. They changed the courts to make it so that by just looking at the court, this game means something different. Whether or not you like the courts or don't like the courts, that's a different conversation. But you know that the courts signify that this game is different than every other game, all right? My opinion of it is that's how the NBA finals need to feel like. When I'm watching, we're in the finals, right? The pageantry, the guest stars, the people who come out, this is something that means something. So just make a court with the logo on it for the teams that make the finals and bring it out, okay? just something simple, Adam. You know what I'm saying? Like, but hopefully you'll be able to figure this one out. Transitioning now to the probably the second biggest story of the NBA still is the NBA Finals / who are the Knicks going to hire as their coach. So as it has been kind of reported or semi-reported that the Knicks are planning on requesting an interview with Jason Kidd, who is currently the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. There are reports also saying that Dallas intends to turn the Knicks' request away. This has been reported multiple times. There's also other teams and other coaches of other teams, who are in the mix of this. Ime Udoka has been reported. Chris Finch has been reported. Those are really the only candidates that have been really reported. Johnny Bryant has been kind of just a conclusion that most people put 2 and 2 together because he used to coach in New York before leaving for Cleveland, and now he's out for head coaching jobs. The Knicks job, which I completely forgot, is the only job that's available right now. Everyone still has their coach, unless OKC and Indiana do something insane. But it's the only job available right now, and it's probably still the biggest job in the NBA next to the Lakers job. I will sit up here and say that I think Jason Kidd is going to be the next head coach of the New York Knicks. The reason why is because I don't get the dance that Dallas is doing, right? You just had Brian Windhorst on SportsCenter say earlier today that there is mutual interest between Kidd and the New York Knicks. And my whole thing is this: like, if you're in a relationship with someone and the person that you're with is basically going back and forth or bantering around about some other person that they might want to be with, one of two things have to happen. Y'all got to break up, or you got to lock her down for a long time. Okay? For a long time. Okay? And Dallas isn't doing either one. Okay? So you see there, like, there's no like period of time that Dallas has to wait. A very simple statement from the Dallas Mavericks should just be, we as the Dallas Mavericks are not interested in trading or releasing Jason Kidd out of his contract that he recently just signed with the Mavericks. All inquiries about his job should be null and void. And this is done. So clearly, Jason Kidd has put them in a position to think that he really wants to leave, or he wants more money from them. So I think that in some way or another that Jason Kidd will be the head coach of the New York Knicks. I don't necessarily know what kind of compensation they're going to get. This is ironic because Jason Kidd was already traded when he was a coach, not even a player anymore, from the Brooklyn Nets to the Milwaukee Bucks back about a decade ago. He was actually traded. So we will see if he does get moved and when that will happen. And what exactly means for the team is, I think it can go one or two ways. I think that Kidd, well, I don't think he's necessarily a better X's and O coach than Tom Thibodeau. It seems that from everything you're reading that the players were about to fucking riot on Tibbs. And it's all coming out now about like the whole minutes and how he felt about them. And I can tell there was one dude that was very happy that Tibbs is no longer the coach, who happened to get traded from the Nets for 5 first-round picks. But anyway, he was at least looked upon as a guy to get them to where they are now. And now it seems that they're looking for a guy to get them to the next level and be able to win the championship with. And it just seems to me this team just needs a reset on vibes. The vibes, while they don't seem to be disastrous, they just didn't seem to click as much. And the amount of, like, I fuck with you is the thing that really, to me, is what caused Tibbs to lose out on this, right? I would say this a lot, and I feel like this is about almost any managerial job, but feels more so in jobs like this. When there are less employees at whatever your position is, you need more of them to fuck with you, right? So if you're running a Fortune 500 company or you're a CEO at a big time company, it doesn't really matter if the janitors on the second floor don't really like you. It doesn't really matter if the IT departments aren't really super fond of you, because you got like 1,000, 2,000 employees, right? There's never going to be enough of them to really like turn the tide against you, especially if you're rolling in the money. However, if you work at like a bar or like a small cafe, if you only piss off 6 people, that could be your entire workforce. And it only takes a few people to turn on someone. So that's why I say for in a professional sports angle, NBA coaches have it the hardest, because it's not necessarily your X's and O's. I don't think there's anyone in the league that doesn't know how to, run a high pick and roll off the ball screen, get up spacers, running box ones. Like those things, the X's and O's, I think you have to be able to at least know what you're doing to play in the league, right? Or to coach in the league. Half of this is just having the players to fuck with you. And if you don't have those guys on your side and ready to go for stuff, then you got to get out, no matter the success, right? And that's how the league works. And that's really how most businesses work who have a lot of small businesses. So it very much just seemed like the players, I'm not going to go and say it had a full-out mutiny, but you can read a lot of stuff that's saying that players were just kind of done with this. But my other angle of this, of how this can go one of two ways with Jason Kidd, is if they bring in Jason Kidd and do some small tweaks around the roster, I think the Knicks have as best of a chance to win the NBA championship have they had since the 90s. Real talk, I think that these conference, you can already pencil them in for being a top 2 to top 3 seed. They will have home court, if not throughout the playoffs, in the first 2 rounds at least. And I don't see anyone being this indomitable force that they can't move out the way, right? If they just add some things to the roster, maybe see if Jason Kidd come in, get the vibes going, things like that. The issue is, are they trying to get Giannis? The Kevin Durant thing aside, Ian Begley came out today on a radio station saying that he doesn't think that's going to happen. So maybe that one is in the back burner. But the KD at least trade, to me, was more of like, okay, like it's pretty simple. You trade Cat, you get KD, the contracts kind of work out. You might have to add a little bit of salary filler, and like that's kind of the move you make, and maybe you add some guys around the margins, but you basically just flipping one guy for one guy. And then the young players coming in and kind of trying to give you guys some more depth for going into next season. To get Giannis, you're trading 3 of your rotation players at a minimum. And you're getting a guy in, and now you have him and Brunson and a bunch of C- players. Like Milwaukee already did that for 2 years and it didn't work. Granted, their 2 best players got hurt at different times going into the postseason. But if anything that this NBA is trying to tell you and like wave it right there in your face, depth is what you need. It is not necessarily about how good your 1 and 2 best players are. It is about who is your worst player that you are playing and what can't they do, because they will attack it until you have to pull that guy off the floor. And then instead of being able to go 9 deep, now you're going 8. And then how bad is that 8th player? Do you have to pull him? And then it starts to wear down your players and your team. Your team just isn't as effective. So I would be very much out on this if they ended up making the Giannis trade. Maybe Luka got traded for, I don't want to say ham sandwich, but he didn't get traded for much. And would that happen a second time? I don't think Black Swans happen 2 times in the same year. But we'll see. But I don't want the trade to happen just because of like just how much it would cost, and just how the NBA is just kind of showing you so much of like the way the league has shifted so much going forward. Last topic we're going to talk about, switching to the NFL, a little bit of NFL talk during the summertime, is Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers. 1-year deal. It happened on a day where like the Knicks coach firing happened and Aaron Rodgers got signed, which was kind of like a weird, like, holy shit, this is both happening at the same time kind of day. Also, there was other things happening that day with tweets going back and forth. But the Pittsburgh Steelers now have their quarterback. who will be the starting quarterback going into the season. And it's funny how just like your name brand can just keep you going for so much longer. I personally don't think Aaron Rodgers is a very good quarterback anymore. And while he was always an asshole, your asshole to play ratio's got to always outweigh with the play being better. And if you're just an asshole, I think, especially in locker rooms as quarterbacks, they'll sniff that shit out. But if you're balling, then, you know, guys like that kind of get passes, right? And so we'll see how this works. 40-year-old men do not change their ways most times. That's not really how that works out. And I do not believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers will be good enough to do the things that they want to do. They will probably make the playoffs just because I trust their defense. I trust Mike Tomlin. Like, they're kind of always a team that's going to always be kind of around 8 to 10 wins. And, you know, Mike Tomlin's one of the best coaches in the league. But they have put their fans in a situation where, I said it earlier on this pod a while ago, like, just like Tom Thibodeau, they're not necessarily the same coach. You know, Mike Tomlin's been to a Super Bowl and won another Super Bowl. But it doesn't really matter how good you are at this point if you're not able to get to the titles, right? And ultimately, like, this is like people get fired after so many seasons. And while I think that Pittsburgh really likes the fact that they've never had a losing record under Tomlin, that they've made the playoffs almost all the time in his tenure, I don't think they love the fact that they are kind of just this, like, looked upon as like first round exit every single time. And they haven't done anything to disprove that. Do I think they'll win a playoff round this year? No. I wouldn't be surprised if they miss the playoffs again this year. Like, this is not some like lock playoff seed. I think they might get in. They're on the fence. They'll be the 6th or the 7th seed. Either one. And unfortunately, that is just what the case is going to be. But for Aaron Rodgers, I mean, his career is going down a path where I think most people will still look at it as being great, right? He's an all-time great. He's won 4 MVPs, won a Super Bowl. But he's at the point now where it's just like, I don't necessarily know if he had a better overall career. While I know in my mind, I know that Aaron Rodgers was a better quarterback than Drew Brees. There's nothing statistically that you can say that to prove that. He's got the MVPs, yes. Brees is going to have all the touchdowns and the passing yards. And Rodgers, I don't think is going to play much more than this year. And this year might be the last one. And that guy was the best physical quarterback I've ever seen. The best. I've never seen a quarterback play better than him. And yet, it's just going to be left feeling like, And I think a lot of that is due to his ego. And the fact that he basically thought he was bigger than what he was. And that's kind of sad. A lot of times, you know, athletes with great gifts, a lot of that comes with ego. And a lot of that comes with the fact that it would have been so perfect if he went to Minnesota just to complete the perfect Favre legacy arc. But I do wonder if this last ride will kind of make his career go out into a whimper as opposed to being, you know, what it should have been, which is considered one of the, at least during this run since 2000s, I think it's Brady and, you know, Mahomes is going to pass him. I mean, Mahomes has already passed him, but he should have been number 2, you know, with a bullet. So yeah, but that's all the time we have for today. For you guys, it's your boy Just. You know, again, like I said, thank you guys again for listening. Like I said, subscribe, review, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. We'll be back later this week to talk more about the finals and see if we have a guest to come through. But all right, I'll talk to you guys later in the week. Peace out.